Respect is not something you beg for. It's not something you negotiate. It's not even something you can buy, charm, or fake. Respect is either present or it isn't, and once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. The most dangerous thing isn't her leaving, it's her staying with you without respect, because when respect is lost, love starts fading, attraction weakens, and slowly but surely, loyalty disappears. And the worst part? Most men don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Picture this: you're doing everything you think is right. You're trying to be nice, available, emotionally open, flexible, caring. But deep down, something feels off. She's pulling away, treating you differently, showing subtle signs of coldness, disrespect, or even boredom. It's not random. It's not bad luck. It's the silent consequence of behaviors you might not even know you're doing. And by the time you notice the damage, it might already be irreversible. Here's the hard truth. Respect is oxygen to a relationship. Without it, everything suffocates. No matter how much love, passion, or history you have. The real tragedy: most men destroy respect without even realizing it, doing 5 subtle but deadly things that instantly lower their value in her eyes. These aren't obvious mistakes. In fact, society often encourages them, but Stoicism, the timeless wisdom of men like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, teaches us the exact opposite. The Stoics knew that true respect starts from within, not from pleasing others. Now, this isn't about manipulating women, playing games, or putting on some fake alpha mask. This is about transforming yourself into a man who commands respect naturally, without ever having to ask for it. Because the men who truly keep a woman's respect are the ones who don't need to demand it. They live it, and make no mistake. This applies whether you're dating, married, or even just starting to attract women. Women are constantly assessing you, not always consciously, but instinctively. They notice how you handle challenges, how you respond to pressure, and whether you stand on your principles or crumble the moment things get uncomfortable. The moment they sense weakness, not physical weakness but weakness of character, respect begins to fade. Now, here's where it gets even more dangerous. Women rarely tell you when they start losing respect. They don't send a warning text saying, "Hey, just so you know, I don't see you the same way anymore." No, they simply change. Their tone shifts. The sparkle fades. The way they look at you, different. And most men, instead of correcting the root issue, double down on the same destructive behaviors, seeking more validation, becoming more reactive, more indecisive, or more passive, digging themselves deeper into the hole. But here's the good news. If you understand these 5 mistakes and apply the Stoic solutions I'm about to share with you, you can turn everything around. You'll not only regain self-respect, but naturally attract the respect of others, including her. Because the truth is, you don't have to force anyone to respect you when you live in a way that commands it. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'll break down exactly what these 5 respect-killing mistakes are, and more importantly, how to replace them with behaviors that will make you stronger, more confident, and ultimately a man who earns respect effortlessly. If you've ever felt that quiet, gut-wrenching feeling of losing her respect, or if you want to make sure you never do, this might just be the most important thing you hear today. The silent killer of masculinity, seeking validation constantly. Respect is never granted to those who chase it. Yet most men unknowingly walk through life with an empty cup, begging others to fill it. They crave validation like a thirsty man craves water in the desert, hoping every compliment, every approval, every nod from others will finally quench them. But here's the paradox. The more you seek it, the less you receive. Seeking validation constantly is not just a small character flaw. It is the silent killer of masculinity. It's the invisible chain that weakens your posture, dilutes your voice, and makes every action you take seem like it is performed for someone else's applause. But where does this need come from? Why does a man born free and capable begin to outsource his worth? Imagine a warrior who, before entering battle, runs to the crowd pleading for their cheers and approval before he picks up his sword. The crowd might clap out of pity, but in their eyes he is already defeated. This is how many men live today. They modify their behavior, not based on principle, but on whether it will be liked. They carefully adjust their opinions to fit trends, soften their edges to avoid discomfort, and ask, sometimes silently, "Do you approve of me?" The answer they seek is never enough, because true approval cannot be bought externally. Stoicism teaches the complete opposite. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." The man who lives for validation becomes a slave to it. Every glance, every comment, every text reply becomes a judgment on his worth. The problem isn't that validation exists. We all appreciate recognition. The problem is needing it, depending on it, making it the fuel for your self-worth. Because when you need it, you will do anything to get it. You will compromise your principles, hide your true opinions, and worst of all, you will tolerate disrespect. Women notice this instantly. A man who chases approval is a man who can be controlled, and nothing kills respect faster than being easy to control. Now notice this. The man who walks into a room with nothing to prove carries a different energy. He does not dress, speak, or act for applause. He operates from an inner code. His actions are rooted, not reactive. He doesn't need to announce his value, he lives it. Ironically, the man who needs the least validation often receives the most. Why? Because people, especially women, respect a man who is enough unto himself. But this is not about being indifferent or cold. It's about remembering that your worth is determined by your own judgment, not by collecting points from others. The man who knows this does not avoid connection. He simply does not sell himself cheaply. He speaks his truth calmly, even when unpopular. He makes decisions without looking over his shoulder, waiting for a reaction. He is not stubborn, but he is unmoved by shallow opinions. The truth is, validation is a trap you can step out of any time. The door has always been open. The moment you stop waiting for others to tell you who you are, you begin to stand. You stop chasing, and you start attracting. Women, friends, even strangers, sense the shift without you uttering a word. So ask yourself, are you playing for the crowd, or are you living for the man you see in the mirror? Because only when you choose the latter will respect from both yourself and others follow without you ever having to ask for it. 2. Lacking emotional control, the silent destroyer of respect. There's a storm that quietly destroys men from within, and most don't even see it until it's too late. It isn't poverty, failure, or even rejection. It's the inability to govern themselves in moments of chaos. Emotional control, or rather the lack of it, has ended more relationships, ruined more reputations, and weakened more men than any external enemy could ever dream of. A man without emotional control is like a city without walls, open to every invader, exposed to every assault. The ancient Stoics saw this clearly. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor ruling over the greatest empire of his time, wasn't just fighting external enemies, he was fighting the storms within himself. His journals reveal a constant reminder: you have power over your mind, not outside events. He didn't write this because he had mastered it once and for all, but because it was a daily battle. Here's what most men don't realize: a woman doesn't expect you to be emotionless. She expects you to be composed. There's a difference. A man who feels nothing is dead inside. A man who feels everything but controls it. That is rare. That is attractive. That is masculine. But what does lacking emotional control look like in reality? It's not always the Hollywood version of punching walls or screaming during arguments. It's often quieter, but just as destructive. It's the subtle sulking when things don't go your way. The silent treatment you give when you feel ignored. The emotional roller coaster you put yourself and her through because you cannot sit with discomfort. It is this quiet chaos that robs you of respect. A woman, consciously or not, is always watching how you handle life's pressures. She pays attention to how you respond when things don't go according to plan, when she tests you, when the world denies you, when uncertainty arises. And if every small inconvenience shakes you, if you react emotionally to every wave, you signal one thing loud and clear: you are unstable. And here's where most men lose the plot. They think that showing emotions means being open or vulnerable, as culture now preaches. They interpret emotional control as suppression. But it isn't. Suppression is weakness in disguise. Control is strength. Suppression ignores emotions. Control understands them, acknowledges them, and then chooses the most virtuous action regardless of how one feels. This is the core of Stoicism, not detachment from life, but engagement with life, without becoming enslaved by it. To feel anger, but not to be consumed by it. To feel sadness, but not to collapse under it. To feel fear, but still to act with courage. That is the true mark of a grounded man. Think about it. When have you ever admired a man who lost control? The great men you respect, whether they are historical figures, leaders, or even personal mentors, carry the same trait: composure. Their ability to face adversity without collapsing is what makes them stand tall in the eyes of others. So, what's the solution? Don't aim to feel nothing, aim to control everything you feel. This is done by training, not by wishful thinking. Practice the pause. In moments of anger, frustration, or fear, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will this reaction serve me or sabotage me? The man who can master this simple practice separates himself from 95% of others. He becomes the one others turn to in crisis, the one she looks to with trust, the one who commands respect without ever asking for it. Control your emotions, or they will control you, and when they do, respect will quietly slip away, and you won't even notice until it's gone. 3. Indecisiveness. The silent killer of respect. There is a quiet but deadly force that rots a man from within. It doesn't shout, it doesn't announce itself. It works silently, yet its consequences are devastating. It's not weakness of body, it's weakness of mind. It's indecision. And it kills respect faster than almost anything else. You see, women, whether consciously or not, are constantly watching how you navigate life. Not just how you treat them, but how you make decisions, how you handle uncertainty, how you respond when things don't go your way. They're not searching for perfection, they're looking for certainty. Not the kind of certainty that predicts the future, but the kind of certainty that stands firm when the future is unknown. When you hesitate, when you defer every choice to her, when you ask, "What do you want me to do? Is this okay, or should I?" You may think you're being considerate, flexible, even kind. But what she feels is something entirely different. Doubt. And doubt is poison. A man who cannot decide is a man who cannot lead. And a man who cannot lead is a man who will never fully be trusted, respected, or admired. Not by her, and not by the world. Stoicism is often misinterpreted as emotional suppression. It's not. It's about mastery. And part of mastery is the ability to decide, to accept responsibility for those decisions, and to live with their consequences, whether they lead to success or failure. Think of Marcus Aurelius. The man ruled the largest empire on earth in a time of constant war, betrayal, and plague. Do you think he had the luxury of indulging in uncertainty? Every decision he made, political, military, personal, was under the weight of thousands of lives. Yet he wrote not about controlling outcomes, but about controlling himself. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. No endless debates, no over-analysis. Decide and act. The problem isn't that you might make the wrong decision. The problem is when you refuse to make one at all. Life is movement. It punishes hesitation. The man who tries to please everyone ends up pleasing no one. The man who tries to avoid mistakes becomes paralyzed, and in his paralysis, he loses both opportunity and respect. Women don't want you to have all the answers. They want to see that you are willing to choose, and if you fail, you will take responsibility and adjust. That is leadership. That is strength. That is masculine energy, in its rawest form, not dominance, but direction. Weak-mindedness is not about intelligence. Some of the most intelligent men are crippled by analysis paralysis. Weak-mindedness is about lack of resolve. It's about outsourcing your judgment to the world, to her, to circumstances, anyone but yourself. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. A woman will only trust you as much as you trust your own judgment. This doesn't mean you should never listen, adapt or change course when wiser information presents itself. Stoicism is not stubbornness, it's composure. It's the courage to make the call, accept its outcome, and adjust when necessary, without losing your center. So if you find yourself hesitating often, afraid to make choices without someone else's permission, remember this: the cost isn't just wasted time. The cost is the quiet erosion of respect, first hers, then your own. Decide, act, learn, repeat. That's how you build a mind that leads. That's how you become a man worthy of respect, from others and from yourself. 4. The fatal cost of dishonesty. There is a quiet but deadly force that weakens men more than failure, rejection, or heartbreak. It is dishonesty. Not just lying to others, but lying to yourself. Every time you twist the truth, hide behind half-truths, or compromise your values for convenience, you lose something more precious than approval or temporary success. You lose the foundation of masculinity itself, integrity. A man without integrity is like a building with a cracked foundation. It may stand for a while, but the structure is doomed to collapse when pressure comes. Women can sense this instability faster than most men realize. Respect isn't lost all at once. It crumbles piece by piece, every time your words don't match your actions, every time you say what you don't mean, every time you pretend to be something you are not. Stoicism teaches us that integrity is not optional. It is the very soil in which your character grows. Marcus Aurelius didn't tell us to try to be honest when it was convenient. He said clearly, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. In other words, there is no negotiation here. A man of virtue lives in truth. Not selectively, not only when eyes are watching, always. Dishonesty is not just about outright lies. It shows up subtly. It's when you nod in agreement with things you don't believe. It's when you suppress your principles to avoid conflict. It's when you tell a woman what you think she wants to hear, instead of what you truly feel. On the surface, it may seem like you're keeping the peace, but deep down you're training her, and yourself, to see you as weak. You see, women don't test men because they enjoy creating conflict. They test because they are biologically wired to search for strength, leadership, and reliability. Dishonesty is the quickest way to fail those tests, not because you said the wrong thing, but because you said something you didn't believe. No matter how charming or clever you are, a woman will feel when you lack the courage to be fully honest, and the moment she senses it, respect evaporates. A man who lacks integrity often thinks he's avoiding problems by lying, but in reality, he is only postponing bigger problems. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid storms, it teaches us to stand tall within them. A man grounded in integrity may not always be liked, but he will always be respected, and in the long run respect is infinitely more valuable than approval. Think of the ancient Stoic warriors. They stood on the battlefield knowing full well they could die, yet they did not flinch, because they were at peace with their choices. That same spirit is required in your modern battles, whether in relationships, business, or personal challenges. Integrity is the armor you wear in a chaotic world, and here's the paradox. The very thing most men are afraid to risk by being honest is exactly what they gain. You think honesty will make you lose her, but if you're honest, grounded, and speak your truth calmly and confidently, even if she disagrees, she will respect you more than if you said what you thought she wanted to hear. Real men don't manipulate reality to fit their comfort, they face it head on. A man's words must mean something. Every time you break your word, even to yourself, you teach your subconscious that you are unreliable. Over time this chips away at your confidence, but every time you speak the truth, every time you stand firm even when it's uncomfortable, you build unshakable strength. And remember, women don't follow the loudest man or the most charming man. They follow the man whose words and actions are aligned, the man who speaks less but means every word. In the end, integrity is not for her, it is for you. And when you live by it, respect, attraction, and loyalty are no longer things you have to chase. They come to you naturally. 5. Being passive and avoiding conflict, the silent killer of respect. There's a quiet mistake men make every single day, not out of malice but out of fear, comfort, or simply habit. They avoid conflict. They choose silence over speaking up. They choose comfort over courage. And the price they pay is respect. The tragedy is most men who avoid conflict don't even know they're doing it. They tell themselves, I don't want to make a big deal, or it's not worth the argument. But under the surface, every time they swallow their voice, every time they shrink to avoid discomfort, they are unknowingly signaling one thing: weakness. This doesn't mean you have to be aggressive, loud, or domineering. In fact, that's just another mask worn by men who are insecure beneath the surface. Stoicism never called for theatrics. It called for steadiness, for courage without noise. Look around. How many men endure disrespect quietly? They tolerate passive-aggressive remarks. They let poor behavior slide. They accept crossed boundaries and tell themselves it's the mature thing to do. But maturity isn't passive acceptance. True maturity is measured confrontation, knowing when to speak, how to speak, and standing firm when it matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He did not say avoid, delay, or hide. He said do not, and do not. Clear, direct, uncompromising. The Stoics didn't avoid conflict, they simply didn't manufacture it. There's a difference. A man who avoids conflict out of fear is like a captain refusing to steer his ship because the sea looks rough. Yes, the storm may pass, but so will the destination. Women and people in general instinctively sense this. They don't consciously think he's avoiding confrontation. What they feel is he won't protect himself, he won't protect me, he won't protect what matters. Respect fades, sometimes slowly, sometimes overnight, but it always fades. What most men miss is that women test not because they are cruel, but because they are wired to seek strength. And strength is not brute force. Strength is the quiet man who says, "This crosses the line," calmly but firmly. Strength is the man who, when challenged, doesn't explode, but neither does he flinch. He holds steady. Avoiding conflict is easy in the short term. It feels peaceful. You tell yourself, at least there's no drama. But under the surface, resentment grows. Disrespect compounds. And worst of all, you betray yourself. The Stoics taught that the greatest betrayal is not of others but of your own reason, your own nature. Seneca said, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." Passive men convince themselves they are avoiding unhappiness by avoiding conflict, but they are only postponing a larger unhappiness. The slow death of respect from those around them, and eventually from themselves. So what is the Stoic way? It is not to seek conflict but to never avoid it when it is necessary. When you are disrespected, when boundaries are crossed, when something violates your values, you speak calmly, directly, without drama but with absolute clarity. You do not need to win every argument. You need to stand for what is right, starting with yourself. Passivity is not peace. Peace is active. Peace is earned by standing firm when the winds rise. Only then will others trust you, not because you dominate them, but because they know you will not fold when it matters. That is how a Stoic commands respect, not by force, not by fear, but by living a life that refuses to avoid the necessary storms. Conclusion. What makes a man respectable is not how much he talks about respect, but how he lives. It's not in demanding it, begging for it, or trying to convince others of your worth. It's revealed in how you carry yourself when no one is watching, and especially when everyone is. The hard reality is that most men destroy their own respect, not because they are bad men, but because they are unaware. They seek validation, they lose control of their emotions, they hesitate when decisiveness is required, they compromise their integrity, and perhaps worst of all, they avoid the discomfort of conflict. These behaviors don't seem catastrophic at first. They feel small, forgivable, but they quietly chip away at the foundation of how others, especially women, perceive you. What is respect if not trust? Trust that you are grounded, that you will do what you say, that you won't bend under pressure, that you can protect, not just physically but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. A woman who does not respect you cannot fully love you. She may stay, she may play along, but the depth, the admiration, the loyalty you seek, those things cannot survive without respect. But here's where the power shifts. Every single one of these mistakes is correctable. You are not doomed to repeat them. The Stoics didn't just diagnose the disease, they handed us the cure. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. They taught us that a man who masters himself commands his world, not through control of others but through control of himself. When you stop chasing validation and find approval within, you become magnetic. When you control your emotions instead of letting them control you, you become unshakable. When you make decisions, even imperfect ones, you gain momentum and earn trust. When your word means something, when your integrity is not for sale, people listen. And when you stand firm in the face of conflict, not with aggression but with calm strength, you naturally command respect. Respect is not gifted, it is not negotiated, it is earned through how you show up, every single day. If you take anything from this, let it be this: you never have to ask for respect. If you live like a man who deserves it, and once you do, she will see it. Everyone will.